Alright, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 replay cast. It's been a while since I just sat down and did one of these 1 versus 1 replay casts for YouTube, as there's been a lot of VODs and stuff that needed to be uploaded on the channel. Lots of Africa World, lots of other tournaments and things going on. But it's great to be back casting just another one of these ladder games going on between two great players, and I think this one should be a fantastic match. I just saw this replay and thought, alright, I gotta cast this one. Yeah, it should just be a great match to watch. It's actually going to be a Terran versus Zerg on the map Port Alexander. A Korean Terran player taking on a Mexican Zerg player. Both of them being streamers, so spawning down the bottom right-hand side of the map, it's Kiwian, aka Top, formerly known as Top, but he swapped his official ID to Kiwian and goes by that. And up in the top left-hand side of the map, it's JimRising, playing for, I believe it was, let's double check here. I totally checked this before, but Infinity Esports, because there's also Infinity Gaming, so just wanted to be correct on that. Let's see how this game's going to go between the two of them, though, because these two guys are guys that grind away on the North American ladder. Kiwian, he's from Korea, but he likes to sort of terrorize the North American ladder, just plays most of his games there, I believe. But JimRising, no doubt, is no slouch. He's actually a fantastic Zerg player, really underrated as far as everything's concerned, I'd say. Because he's actually, while he's mainly just a streamer, he has some great results sometimes and takes down some very, very good players. And that's just because he's consistently playing while streaming. Of course, Kiwian is very good as well, but doesn't compete as much, I'd say. I mean, he'll go and try out for the GSL, but hasn't had a lot of success there because it's the GSL. So let's see how this game's going to go between these two. Very standard opening. SCV Scout on the way for Kiwian to start things off. And this is something that I love as a Terran player. I mean, it's just always worth it, in my opinion. Not having to worry about keeping the Reaper back at home. It allows you to have that freedom to move out. Just scout the Zerg early on, make sure there's no early spawning pools that are going to allow the Zerg to attack you early on or anything like that. So really covering just, or really just checking that box to make sure you're safe. And I mean, it could be argued that it costs a fair bit to scout, and it does early on in the game, but it's worth it, I'd say. I mean, if you just play from there. Nice kill on the drone, by the way, from Kiwian. Trying to get another one. Is he going to get it? Good spore from JimRising on that one. He tried to save the other, but did not manage to do so. So Kiwian able to pick off one drone, almost gets the second. Getting two would have been absolutely huge. Long gone are the days in which that a Reaper is able to casually pick off that many drones. For now, though, Reaper just hanging out at that third base can probably delay that if JimRising wants to expand. So he's actually double queening right now. No third base starting up just yet. He's got his Ling speed on the way, but this Reaper just hanging out is enough of a deterrent in order to prevent that third base for now. Because JimRising probably does want to get that up. You're a Zerg, you generally want that third. A round of drones going up now, but yeah, the third base just later than some other Zergs get it. Now, okay, let's take a look here. Fusion Core on the way for Kiwian, so we'll see what he's going to do with this. And Overlord for JimRising is actually coming on in here. This Overlord to the north is getting repelled, doing that barracks trick. Kiwian lifting that barracks so he can have the vision on that Overlord. The other Overlord just casually waltzed on in, though. Saw the starport, but I guess JimRising not wanting to lose the Overlord, not committing to scout that. Here we see the Hellions are out, so they're actually going to be able to protect these Marines. So I think this Overlord is actually going to die. I mean, JimRising tried to save it there with a few lings, but yes, it does go down. A lot of work to kill off that Overlord. Another one actually in the main base of Kiwian so far. This guy's just hanging on out, maybe waiting to see if there's cloak or anything, when in reality it's probably going to be a battle cruiser. The Marines are coming on in, though, and yeah, they're actually going to be able to pick off this Overlord, and that's yeah, that is the second Overlord going down, so not comfortable for the Zerg. Keeping it, or paying attention to what else JimRising's doing, is that he got a Roach Warren fairly early on. It's just finishing up at this time. Actually, Roach Warren finishing up before, or just on par with that third base. And then a lair on the way, so we'll see what's going to be next. Now, JimRising did scout in with this Overlord, and he did spot the Fusion Core, so he knows it's going to be a battle cruiser. There's also a build that I gotta try, guys. If you guys ever tune into my stream or anything, it's usually a battle cruiser rush versus Zerg, and it's been like that for for years at this point. As it's just such a fun build to do, even before the BCs were changed. But there's a 2 BC rush build that's out there, and I'm gonna have to look into that one and give that one a go, because twice the battle cruisers, definitely worth it, right? Now, let's see what's coming on the way for JimRising. He's making a few roaches to be safe, because some of the power of a battle cruiser rush like this is because your opponent's like, battle cruisers, what am I supposed to do against that? When the Hellions themselves can actually be the ones that get most of the damage done, even though they're sort of the less, I guess, intrusive unit. But anyway, I heard that click. Where's that BC? Teleports right on into the main base. Got that cool Emojin skin, I believe it is. Just trading out with these queens for now. Not getting a lot of drones, and keep in mind, Kiwian did teleport this battle cruiser in, so it can actually teleport out. It's got to run away, and these queens are actually chasing after it. If Kiwian loses the first battle cruiser, that will be absolutely huge. One of the queens goes down in pursuit, but the battle cruiser goes down. That was absolutely worth it. There is a Hellbat attack at the third base of JimRising. These Hellbats running on in here, looking to chase these drones. They might be able to get a nice shot or two off. Some drones are going to be going down. Actually, massive damage getting done by Kiwian there. Has picked off 11 drones so far. The third base has been abandoned. A few more drones are going to run right into the center there, actually get picked off. So Kiwian, he lost the battle cruiser, and that really hurts as the Terran player, because those things, they're pretty easy to keep alive. Let's be honest, guys. So Kiwian, fortunately, getting some damage done at that third base, because those battle cruisers, wise man once said, they cost as much as a command center. And yeah, let's take a look. What's going to be the follow-up for Kiwian? Does he have an armory up just yet? Of course he does, because he made Hellbats, but he's getting up his extra factories, so going up to 5 factory. No upgrades starting at his armory, just going to be going for that mass production. Meanwhile, a few roaches come on in, and there's actually no answer to these just yet. There's going to be a tank or 2 popping out, so that will be enough to shoo away just these few roaches that JimRising sent across the map. Hellbat's morphing. Looks like this attack will be repelled, but just one of those odd move-outs that JimRising was like, I have a few roaches, let's see what they can get done. They are now going to waddle slowly home, as they are slow roaches, though. Kiting versus these Hellbats, it's just such an odd interaction. Roaches are pretty good versus Hellbats, guys. Thinking of running on in there to pick off an SCV or 2, but has to retreat as that tank sieges up. Now, as far as the way this game's gone, Kiwian, he did get a fair bit of damage done. He delayed JimRising's base a fair bit at the start of this game. I mean, that was like, what, a 3:30 hatchery? And that's like pretty late compared to a usual hatchery. And then he's still only on 3 bases. He's firing up his 4th base just now. But Kiwian, I mean, he's equal on workers. He's got the mules and 5 factory production. So this could be pretty scary for the Terran player, or for the Zerg player, pardon me, because I mean, just economy-wise, it's looking pretty darn good. Hydra Den is on the way for JimRising. I was just about to ask, JimRising is Mr. Hydra himself. I don't know if I've ever cast anyone who makes as many Hydras as JimRising. He's very good with that unit. And there we go. He is starting to drone up a little bit more, so trying to get that count up. But, like, if you're JimRising and you've got the money, like, you might just even want to throw up like a 5th base pretty quickly here. Like, I'm a big fan of Zerg's double expanding, because versus mech, you're not necessarily going to get the hatchery sniped a lot. You might lose it to a push or something, but having a backup hatchery is usually worth it if you can afford it. And for now, yeah, maybe he can, maybe he can't. It's tough to say, but JimRising, just the way this game's panned out, it's not looking too fantastic for him. Of course, I mean, there's going to be some room in this game for him to take good engagements. The Hydras and Roaches, they can shut down mech pretty well if the meching Terran missteps. I mean, part of mech's strength is that it comes from that it's basically able to sort of create a lot of I guess leeway or whatever, that you're able to always make a play happen with it, in a sense. Like, get some Cyclones in, snipe a hatchery, get some Hellions in, something like that, Thor drops, whatever. But if the Terran, say, just doesn't really bring it together, I mean, Roaches and Hydras, they will trade out versus a mech army that's not being utilized properly. So we'll see if JimRising is able to maybe force Kiwian to make a misstep. I mean, maybe just defend everything that comes his way. For now, though, Kiwian just getting up a 5th command center, actually, has just already got up another one. So going to be looking to make mules for days. And meanwhile, Kiwian just making tanks, making Vikings. This could be the start of a very, very strong push. He's got a few Thors in his army as well. And yeah, just while sort of peak late game, it's up for debate who's got it, and that, say, tanks and Vikings not really the ideal late game Terran mech composition, but I think we can probably bet that Kiwian's going to push out relatively soon, I'd say, because you don't just want to sit up mass tanks and Vikings. Well, I mean, they're very good, but there's other late game units that you want to go for as a Terran. Now, this game, JimRising, he's made himself some Hydras, made some Roaches, getting up a Hive, a Spire as a Zerg. If you've got the room, you want to get all that tech that you can. But let's see now, 4th base going up for Kiwian. It's an orbital, too. Kiwian is a madman. The fact that he just floated that over as an orbital command, like, guys, I mean, usually Terrans will get a planetary as a 4th just because Terrans get harassed a lot. For now, though, just Kiwian, cool as a cucumber, just being like, alright, I'll build a planetary right at the front, land this over. It could very well be an orbital. Let's see. I really want it to be a planetary. There we go. No one's that mad to make their 5th base and orbital command. Hellions and Cyclones going to be trading out for Kiwian. Both these guys are approaching max, so you're going to have a bit more room to trade out, sort of work what they want their composition to be. For now, JimRising, he's going to be getting up some Vipers, which will really help him out, as Viper's a very good anti-mech unit. But the way Kiwian's approaching this game is really interesting. He's just dragging this out, in a sense, like, he's invested in a ton of missile turrets already, so he's just going to be playing the late game, which is kind of scary as Terran, because Terran mech, like, it's not just the turtle fest that it used to be. I mean, it's still very good at defending some attacks and such, but, I mean, Kiwian getting up all these turrets, this is like, I am sitting back, this is my home. Instead of just investing into a big army and attacking, he's just setting up defensively. Right now we see JimRising is looking to push on in towards that 3rd base of Kiwian. A fair few tanks are in position there, though, but this is a lot of Roach Hydra coming in for JimRising. More tanks are set up on the high ground, though. This command center could be getting sniped down, though, and it definitely will be. JimRising, it cost him a fair bit to go for that as he traded off a lot of supply. But, that was still pretty decent for JimRising, getting on in there. A few tanks. I mean, Hydras, they can handle a few tank shots, and when there was that much, and Kiwian not quite in position to defend that. For now, though, Kiwian, let's take a look. He's going back into this battle cruiser production versus JimRising here, and we'll see, because battle cruisers, they're not really a mech staple. I mean, they're rushed like he did early on, but as far as just massing battle cruisers, it's not necessarily a common thing. I mean, in some matches it'll happen, but we'll see if he's able to make it work. Did he get Yamato cannon? He is yet to get the Yam cannon, which really makes these battle cruisers efficient, so you're gonna have to start that, Kiwian. We'll see if he clues into that when he's selecting up his battle cruisers. Like, wait, I need that upgrade. Viper's gonna be getting some good efficiency for JimRising, and Kiwian investing in battle cruisers, losing some units. He's sitting back, and we'll see if JimRising's just going to punish him for it, because sitting back as a Terran, not sure if that's the best thing to do for. Like, you usually want to be going for some harassment. As I take a look at this base, like, oh, maybe this can be harassed. No, JimRising, he's got 6 spine crawlers there. He's got a spine crawler for every drone that's mining minerals. And I am a big fan of that. If you're a Zerg with a bank, spines and spores cannot be overrated just to keep your economy safe, to keep it going. Meanwhile, we're seeing upgrades start firing up for Kiwian, getting the armor, getting the ship weapons, as he is going to be committing to those battle cruisers, and they really do benefit from upgrades. High health, high rate of attack, that means your attacks, it's just going to be so worth it to have that attack, and then the high health means you're taking a lot of shots, so the armor really is efficient, just the way that it works out mathematically, I guess. We'll see what JimRising is going to do for this, though. He might want to, say, get up some Infestors or something when he really realizes that this is battle cruisers. For now, he's got out Corruptors, and there's no Yamato cannon done just yet. I mean, it takes a fair while to build, and so Kiwian, I mean, his BCs can try and trade out versus the Corruptors, but they just can't do it, as they're just so weak versus Corruptors. Good micro back from JimRising. Look at that. Battle cruisers without Yamato cannon are effectively neutered. They just got nothing going for them. Battle cruisers teleporting out, having to get home. JimRising just reflected that with ease. Of course, there's more on the way for Kiwian, and he's dropping tons of mules, but he's still just a Terran sitting back building battle cruisers, and JimRising has had a lot of time to get ready for something like this. Let's see. Look at all these upgrades on the way for JimRising. Flyer attacks, ground attacks. And he's taken a lot of bases as well. Eventually, Kiwian's going to want to secure another. It's always good to try and reach for a base in a situation like this. If you can get away with a base for a couple of minutes, it's absolutely worth it and can help you out in the long run. Of course, Kiwian, though, is trying to deal with this attack that's incoming. Of course, there isn't too much Zerg in the air to really shut down these battle cruisers at this point, so the Yamato cannon could actually be very efficient right now. There we go. We're going to be seeing it go down. Abduct does interrupt some of that Yamato cannon, but Broodlords get picked off, and suddenly the BCs can trade out pretty well with Hydras. All things considered, JimRising not even fighting with all of his army there, I don't believe. A lot of supply just wasn't there, just in production or whatever. And now JimRising's actually taking a bit of fire at this base. Literal fire, in a sense, as these are Hellbats working away, and it looks like these Hellions are going to evacuate, though. Kiwian maybe could have got that base, but I guess just wanting to keep those units alive. Meanwhile, we are now seeing Pathogen Glands. We're seeing Burrow as JimRising going to be wanting to go for some Infestors and just fires up 26 more Hydras. That is a lot of Hydras. That is a Zerg who had a very big bank, but he's now spent a fair bit of it. Meanwhile, Kiwian firing up more command centers. Absolutely worth it. JimRising just, when he went for that attack, it didn't really work out. It was kind of just a poor attack. Battlecruiser's going to be teleporting away to avoid these Corruptors. Kiwian, got to be careful, got to get over those turrets. This is generally why you have a Thor or two on the ground, but the Cyclone's enough to shoo away these Corruptors. And the Battlecruisers, they do have that high efficiency, as they can just be teleported away and repaired, so they're very, very hard to kill in that sense. Kiwian going to want to repair those up. And Battlecruisers, when they are sitting back or when they are going for harassment, they can be very efficient. One of the things that really does shut them down, though, is Infestors. They can just be abducted. Their spells can be nullified, so they will just be expensive targets. They get picked off. Cyclones lock onto a few Corruptors, which is nice for Kiwian. That's 3 dead Corruptors. It's incredible how fast Cyclones kill them. We are seeing that Neural Parasite go up, though, and that really is the hard counter to the Battlecruisers. Battlecruisers might be pretty darn good versus Zerg if there was not Infestors, but they are very, very good at shutting it down, and we'll see. I mean, of course, Kiwian, he can still try and get something done with them, but they just become so risky. Such high-value targets. Just all it takes is one Neural, and that's effectively a dead, useless Battlecruiser. Cyclones locking onto some Hydras. They are retreating for now. As this is going on, though, JimRising taking all the bases, which is great to see. Kiwian actually going to be floating these bases over here. I think it's going to be a double planetary that he's planning here. Floating tanks or rolling tanks. I'm going to be getting up missile turrets here as well to cover this location, which is great to see. He is playing this defensive style, and we'll see if it's going to work out versus JimRising. He's built up a very solid bank for now. He's getting more and more upgrades coming, but JimRising is starting to reach this very scary Zerg army. The Corruptors, the Infestors, a very good composition. Meanwhile, now, though, Kiwian, he's going to be heading to this base here. He's scanning ahead because he does know that he needs to be careful with these BCs, but all it takes is a few Infestors to grab some of these. Kiwian does spot them, though, and he immediately turns around. He knows how dangerous Infestors are to Battlecruisers, just because it's basically just one Neural per Battlecruiser, and that's it. It's done. They just can't escape. They're committed. Their spells are interrupted. Lots of spine crawlers relocating to try and save this base. They weren't actually in time, though, as Kiwian actually going to lock on and pick off this hatchery. Transfuse might have kept this base alive. The one Cyclone, so much damage output, though, is able to pick it off the spines. They will be in position for the next hatchery that gets built, but a nice pick off there by Kiwian. He's still got his Battlecruisers just hanging out, and he's actually going for this mass BC play, so I'm curious to see how well he can make this work, because, I mean, it's so risky using Battlecruisers, guys, but look at this. He's scanning all over. He's being very, very safe. If he does just go and take some trades and escapes, the Battlecruisers can have very high efficiency. It's when you overcommit as a Terran. It's when you get a little bit greedy. Things become a little dicey. For now, that we do see Kiwian just rolling up, killing some static defense, picking off that base, and now heading towards that main base. He's got to avoid the Infestors, but he does. And now these BCs, they can maybe roll on in, pick some tech off. Maybe they can pick off the Hive or something like that. The Corruptors are coming in, but it's not enough Corruptors to deal with this. One Yamato on each of on a Corruptor will just pop them off. So let's see, is there going to be Yamato dumped and maybe a teleport out? There's the Yamato, there's the teleport out, and suddenly we just see like 6 Corruptors die for free. And that is battlecruiser efficiency there from Kiwian. And let's see. How is this going to go? I mean, JimRising, he just didn't have up a ton of static defense. He hasn't built up a mass amount of corruptors, as he is maxed out. But maybe he's got a few too many Hydras or something. It's tough to say exactly what he should do. There we go. He is moving in with these Hydras. He knows that he should maybe toy with these, see what he can get done. Marching forward, maybe going to try and pick off a tank or two. Probably want to snipe off this command center just because Hydras are so good at killing those command centers. And there we go, the Infestors waltzing forward. They are incredible versus these battlecruisers. Look at this, just allowing JimRising to step forward with such confidence, because let's take a look here. There's 13 Infestors, 14 battlecruisers. The battlecruisers will just be useless. JimRising can just select them and teleport them and basically send the battlecruisers packing, or just make them kill each other, make them Yamato cannon each other. Of course, it's a very intensive action, but we see Kiwian, he's just noping out of here. He just knows that he can't just fight with those battlecruisers. He's making more BCs. He needs a few tanks or something, since there's actually no Brute Lords to help out here. But look at this. The battlecruisers, they're actually entering a bit of a base trade right now. Some Infestors eat tank shots, and that was actually a lot of Infestors that just got picked off there. So that was a massive win for Kiwian, cleaning up that Infestor count. So maybe the battlecruisers could just teleport back on in now. A lot of energy has been expended, but yeah, I think Kiwian, I mean, the infested Terrans, they deal so much damage to the battlecruisers, but this is a lot of battlecruisers for Kiwian. This is looking pretty darn great for the Terran player right now. We're seeing 15 Infestors on the way for JimRising. More Hydras get fired up as he's got a massive bank still. And he has taken a fair bit of damage back at home, but he is going to be able to clean this up at this point. JimRising's army just hasn't ever really come together to deal with this. I mean, a few of his bases got wiped. There we go. Some Infestors now finding these battlecruisers. We'll see if there's going to be neural. Fungal growth goes down. Lots of Yamato cannons going down. The more Corruptors are coming in, but they are just trickling on in. Battlecruisers use their teleports, so they can't actually be selected and sent packing. But here we see JimRising. He's now engaging these battlecruisers. The Fungals have been working away on them. They've already used their teleport, or most of them have, so they are committed to this. So a lot of these battlecruisers are going to be dying. JimRising at least getting this is a bit of a consolation prize. That being said, though, overall, Kiwian, while losing a lot of the battlecruisers there, he's done a great job of getting lots of damage done, while even though he's taken a fair bit. And just in that base trade, he got the way better end of the stick. JimRising, he lost so many Infestors to those tank shots, and that allowed everything to be cleaned up a lot easier. Just not enough muscle in this army. We are seeing JimRising looking to move on forward. The battlecruisers are actually just getting repaired, but look at that. Great tank shots going down. Just a few tanks useful at any time for the Terran, just zoning out those Infestors. That's why Zerg generally has a few Brood Lords at all times. Just if they can manage it, as they're great versus tanks, they shut it down. Now let's sort of assess where this game's at right now. Resources lost-wise, JimRising is behind, so Kiwian, he's playing efficient. He's doing a good enough job at that. He's got a pretty decent bank and a pretty decent income still, although he is starting to mine out some of his bases. Securing this base to the north would be absolutely huge for him. JimRising, though, he's still got himself a pretty solid income. He's building up more of his army here, going to be maxed out. And maxed out versus maxed out, I still think if JimRising takes a good fight, it'll be a fantastic spot for him. Like, look at that, 10 Infestors, 10 battlecruisers. This can really go either way. 15 Corruptors are out. There's a big round of drones being made instead of focusing on the army supply, but 26 Hydras. They're okay versus battlecruisers, not the best. So maybe trade out a few Hydras if you're JimRising, and maybe get a few more Corruptors out, because Corruptors, they do scale better than those battlecruisers if they can make the fight happen. Kiwian, though, he has done a good job of just being that efficient player. Now let's see all these tanks rolling on up here. These Hydras, oh god, don't do it. Don't go up into those tanks, Hydras. That will just, you will be dead. Hydras, pretty good versus missile turrets, though, as they're running on in. The Cyclones and Hellions, not enough to take these on by themselves, so Hydra's able to get a fair bit of damage done here, just picking off some missile turrets. Kind of putting Kiwian in an odd spot. He's like, what do I do versus these? Where are his battlecruisers? They're looking for a good engagement of their own. Hydras, though, have actually picked off a couple of orbital commands. Maybe not being microed too perfectly, but still picking off those orbital commands is nice. Trading out with some of these units. I'm not sure it was the best trade in the world, as Kiwian has done a good job microing with these Hellions and Cyclones. Hydras are now wandering into planetary fire, but look at that. They put out so much damage. They're just ripping through all these missile turrets here. Yeah, picks off some more Hellions. Look at that. They put out so much damage. They do all get cleaned up, though. Kiwian going to replace these command centers. And let's see, what's JimRising doing right now? I mean, he's still got these Infestors and Corruptors. Probably the two best units at dealing with battlecruisers, and battlecruisers still are a large part of his opponent's army. They are a large part of the supply. Planetary Fortress landing up to the north here. Refinery's getting tossed down. Hydras eating lots of tank shots there. I mean, it is the small numbers of Hydras that don't do too well. So there's actually enough tanks here for Kiwian to bully on the ground. It's sort of interesting when players, they commit so much to, say, the air, they don't have enough to actually win out on the ground. They sort of forget about that sort of section that needs to be covered. And we're interestingly seeing 14 mutas on the way for JimRising. A bit of an odd choice, but it will be enough to clean up some mech. They can deal with a small number of cyclones. So, yeah, cool choice from Kiwian, or from JimRising, I mean. A few Broodlords are enough to send away the tanks, but the battlecruisers teleport on in, and suddenly JimRising can just make 14 mutas, which are not going to help out at all versus battlecruisers. They are pretty darn useless. The tanks are also enough to cover and prevent the Infestors from coming on in, so JimRising kind of just has to take it as he loses a base. I do love the fact that he's throwing up more of these bases, knowing that he needs to keep his economy going, but here we see, in comes the Corruptors, but they are without the Infestors, and oh my god, all the Infestors got picked off there by those tanks and Hellions, so, yeah, JimRising, he just got wrecked, guys. That's it. That's gonna be game. Yeah, GG. Kiwian takes it. That was very quick at the end there, but let's take a look. This is exactly why, I mean, why these players just need to try and take great engagement, because look at this, JimRising at the end wasn't really too sure of what to do. Speed up a little bit, kind of went a bit too far back here. But look at this, I mean, he's got the 13 Infestors versus the 12 battlecruisers, but Infestors, they have a tendency to die, and look at this, yeah, oh man, JimRising just waltzes right on in, and the tanks for Kiwian, they just target down the Infestors, and there wasn't enough Corruptors to stand on their own without the Infestor support versus the battlecruisers. The Yamato cannon, it either just annihilates enough or it doesn't, and oh man, it just annihilated JimRising's army there. And that's going to be the game. So Kiwian versus JimRising, a fantastic Terran versus Zerg. In the end, though, Kiwian plays a great mech style. JimRising, I think he could have maybe done one or two things a little bit better there in order to deal with it. He traded out clearly not too efficiently versus those battlecruisers. But, of course, it's not the most common mech style, just playing with mass BCs. So having a perfect response is tough, but it definitely was the instances in which JimRising lost all those Infestors there, which really did him in, really hurt him. And yeah, anyway, it was great to cast this game, the first replay cast I've done in quite a while now. Guys, if you enjoyed this, let's try and hit that 20 like mark on this video. If you stayed to the end, this video deserves a like. About 30 minutes of a cast. And yeah, just great to be casting. Of course, if you did stay to the end and you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button, as trying to grow in that subscriber count. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.